I'm Aaron Maté, sitting in for Jimmy Dore, here with Americans comedian Kurt Metzger and Misha Pollan. And let's check in on our friend Don Lemon, troubled CNN host. He had to take a breather after he said this, that Nikki Haley isn't in her prime because she's in her 50s. This was the comment that got him in trouble.
This whole talk about age makes me uncomfortable. I think it's the wrong road to go down. She says people, politicians or something are not in their prime. Nikki Haley isn't in her prime. Sorry. When a woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s.
Why? Why didn't he go like this after he said it? She's not in her prime. Sorry. Because, he's got it right there. His job is like, okay, she said something about having a test that obviously Biden couldn't pass.
Yeah.
So he's in pure Don Lemon mode. Now, he's usually for a primetime audience. He's not a morning guy.
Yeah.
So he's like, it's time, my job to caddy powers activate. Because and he just did what he knows to be caddy.
Yes.
And then, okay, it develops really. I don't want to.
Yeah, because she dared question the mental competency of Biden. So he had to go and respond that with something far more offensive than what she said. What she said, actually, it's grounded in fact.
30s and maybe 40s.
What are you talking? Wait.
That's not according to me.
Prime for what?
It depends. I mean, it's just like prime. If you look it up, if you Google when is a woman in her prime.
Google it.
Does he do that? Does he Google when is a woman in her prime?
We did Google it, actually, on the last episode that we covered this, and all it turned out was Don Lemon saying that women are not in their prime if they're in their 50s.
They'll say 20s, 30s, and 40s. I don't necessarily.
40s. Oh, I got another.
I'm not saying
decade.
I agree with that. So I think she has to be careful about saying that, politicians aren't in their prime.
We need to qualify. Are you talking about prime for like childbearing, or are you talking about prime for being president?
The facts are, Google it. Everybody at home. When is a woman in her prime? It says 20s, 30s, and 40s. And I'm just saying Nikki Haley should be careful about saying that politicians are not in their prime, and they need to be in their prime when they serve, because she wouldn't be in her prime according to Google or whatever it is.
Okay,
Bing,
I think I know.
Bing.
I think I understand what Don Lemon's trying to say. He's just saying that being a woman over 40 is the equivalent of senility. These two claims got all.
That is what he's saying, and he got a lot of heat for it. So this was his.
But it's not the problem is that he's too old. Biden is that he's demented.
Yes, exactly. And so Don Lemon put out this statement afterwards. The reference I made to a woman's prime this morning was inartful and irrelevant, as colleagues and loved ones have pointed out, and I regret it. A woman's age doesn't define her either personally or professionally. I have countless women in my life who prove that every day.
Also, you voted for Hillary, who was past her prime, not in terms of biologically, politically, but ran when we all knew she's a murderer.
That's right. And notice how he doesn't just say it was wrong. He says it was inartful.
It was.
And irrelevant. He doesn't say it was wrong. He's not even retracting it. And he also doesn't say I'm sorry. He just says I regret it. Well,
because here's what was inartful. He's talking about prime, okay? And then he throws in 40 because he's sitting next to two 40 and ups.
Yeah.
And then well, I don't know which one's pop. Was that popular? The one who goes, prime for what? That's my question. Like, prime for what? Like, women should run for president in their 20s? What are you talking about?
Google it. You got to Google it. Well,
you got to Google it.
Apparently, Google.
What even is a woman?
Well, here was CNN's response. Don Lemon to undergo formal training will return to CNN this morning on Wednesday.
Oh, thank God. Because if they lose him, let's be straight here. They lost, although Brian Stelter really landed on his shell.
Yeah, he did.
We all, if they lose him, there is no reason to look at CNN, not even to make fun of him.
They lost Chris Cuomo. They lost their CEO, Jeff Zucker.
Yeah, what are you going to watch him for news?
Here's from the Daily Beast. Don Lemon will undergo training and return to CNN airwaves on Wednesday following the fallout over his sexist and misogynist remarks about women's age in their prime. To my CNN colleagues, I sat down with Don and had a frank and meaningful conversation. Meaningful. He has agreed to participate in formal training as well as continuing to listen and learn.
Formal training? Is it the same guy that taught Jeffrey Toobin not to jerk off on Zoom? What are you going to teach him? He's there to be catty. He knows a Republican said a thing about Joe Biden, and his job is to throw something out there to be catty when they say something real, right? So he had no idea. He had no idea that Nikki Haley is like part of the. He probably doesn't really know anything about anything. So he just knows Republican, but he doesn't know she's part of the club, like the Liz Cheney club, you know?
Yeah. So this message coming from CNN boss Chris Licht, we take the situation very seriously. The network chief added, "It is important to me that CNN balances accountability with fostering a culture in which people can own, learn, and grow from their mistakes. To that end, Don will return to CNN this morning on Wednesday."
Why is this the thing, by the way? Like, of all the countless unbelievable things.
Yeah.
Oh, you have the other clip, right?
We're going to get to it. Yeah, so some CNN insiders were less than impressed with the punishment or lack thereof that Lemon received for his on-air antics. CNN should have been focusing on Caitlyn and Poppy instead of Don, one network source told the Daily Beast. Another insider lamented that Lemon keeps embarrassing the network.
And that's hard.
A third CNN staffer noted how last week's Prime remarks constituted just the latest insult from Don Lemon, part of a pattern in which the anchor repeatedly says about women and to them.
Do straight women think that gay men like them? Were they in the impression that they like they love how you come to the club and feel them up?
Late last year, Lemon similarly drew public outcry and drew the ire of his female co-host by arguing on air that the U.S. men's soccer team should be paid more than the women's team because they are more interesting to watch.
They bring in more money. How's that wrong?
Sounds like Donald Trump a little bit.
Soccer. No one's interesting to watch.
Lemon, who was moved from a solo primetime slot to a co-hosting morning gig a few months ago, was forced to issue a groveling apology to his CNN colleagues following the morning during an editorial meeting. So finally comes the apology. After his initial statement refused to apologize. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I did not mean to offend anyone," he said. "What I said came out wrong, and I wish I hadn't said it. I believe women of any age can do anything they set their minds to. The people I'm closest to in this organization are women." There we go. Some of my best friends are women.
Yeah, some of my best. Hey, come on, I'm gay, man. You're like a shaman in the 90s, I would be considered. It did come out right. He was just trying to hit her on age, and he doesn't give a rat's ass about the feelings of women. He's not into women. He just was trying to protect the Democrats. Can't you understand that?
So here's a reaction from Michelle Tafoya. She's a broadcaster. So CNN believes formal training will help Don Lemon do his job better. Ergo, CNN and Chris Licht think they can change Don's attitudes and beliefs through training. Color me skeptical. And here's Howard Stern making fun of Don Lemon. Stern mocks CNN curing Don Lemon with 1 day of sensitivity training. They must have an expert over there.
Stern had to join a whole cult to learn that.
And here's Don Lemon. "I appreciate the opportunity to be back on CNN today. To my network, my colleagues, and our incredible audience, I'm sorry. I've heard you. I'm learning from you, and I'm committed to doing better. See you soon."
To my beautiful and fertile in their prime colleagues, I apologize. Any woman can do anything, even well into their 50s. You can.
So Don Lemon came back on Wednesday, and what better way to appeal to angry liberals than what? Talking about how great the U.S. is in arming Ukraine. So this is some of what Don Lemon did upon his comeback appearance.
Ukraine's not in its
1 year
prime.
ago, President Biden pledged to support Ukraine after Russia's invasion. This was then.
My message to the people of Ukraine is a message I delivered today to Ukraine's foreign minister and defense minister, who I believe are here tonight. We stand with you. Period.
And this is now, 1 year later, he has a similar message.
That dark night, 1 year ago, the world was literally at the time bracing for the fall of Kyiv. 1 year later, Kyiv stands. And Ukraine stands. Democracy stands. The Americans stand with you, and the world stands with you.
So President Biden announcing an extra $500 million in aid while on the ground at the start of this week. Let's walk you through exactly what the U.S. has provided up to this point.
Please like me again. I'm going to tell you about all the weapons we're sending over to Ukraine.
I can't believe he said, so many of these reports sound like if you just change the tone of it, it would be Jimmy saying it. Let's look at what they gave them. $500 million,
Yeah.
Another goddamn weapons thing.
Yeah.
That's so bizarre, the reverse thinking.
Yeah. And if Don Lemon's going to undergo some training, he might have to address his issues, his open issues with his co-host. Check out how he responded to one of his co-hosts interviewing a Republican Congress member who mentioned the censorship of the Hunter Biden laptop story and how the New York Post was not allowed to share its articles on social media based on the fake claim that this was just an operation from Russia. So check out how outraged Don Lemon gets at the very mention of this episode.
All right. Thank you. That's going to be it. That's the time that we're in, where facts are sort of flexible. And
that's why we got Caitlin Collins on the Hill,
out there,
fact-checking in real time. It was a great interview.
Citing incredible sources, like citing the New York Post as a credible source and saying that facts are, it's just...
Google it.
The New York Post was the credible source here because they accurately reported that Hunter Biden had lost his laptop by putting it up for repair and then forgetting about it. And the contents of the laptop raised questions about Hunter Biden trading on his family name for foreign business connections. And reporting on that by the New York Post was censored. And here is Don Lemon taking umbrage at the mention of that censorship.
I guess next you're going to say Jussie Smollett was lying.
I can't believe that we're here.
Caitlin, that was a great interview. All right, moving on.
Anyway, well, now moving on, because that's a big issue when it comes to the American. Hold on, please, with the music.
Stop the music.
You know, if he could just be the like, you know, overly put together, like empty news vessel that he's supposed to be and not start believing his own fucking bullshit that he has a thought that should be shared. That's what happened. He's like, I'm Don Lemon. I remember the New Year's party where he's drinking. I'm Don Lemon. That's what I think. That's what he's doing. Like, he's like, I'm going to go off road and really like save this thing right now.
Yep. Well, Don Lemon has a history of making offensive comments, I think. This is from him back before the Black Lives Matter era. Check out what he says here.
Because black people, if you really want to fix the problem, here's just 5 things that you should think about doing. Here's number 5. And if this doesn't apply to you, if you're not doing this, then it doesn't apply to you. I'm not talking about you. Here's number 5. Pull up your pants. Walking around with your ass and your underwear showing.
That's the Bill Cosby Obama playbook.
I know. And by the way, they were saying it, I believe, several years after that style had already gone out.
Yes, that's true.
Exactly. We were back to tight ass jeans, I think, by the time these boomers got this great. Okay.
Is not okay. In fact, it comes from prison when they take away belts from the prisoner so that they can't make a weapon. And then it evolved into which role a prisoner would have during male-on-male prison sex. The one with the really low pants is a submissive one.
I am so hard right now. Hey, pull yourself up by your pants straps.
Number 4 now is the N-word. By promoting the use of that word when it's not germane to the conversation, have you ever considered that you may just be perpetuating the stereotype the masser intended, acting like a nigger?
I'm talking
now,
to you,
number
Jermaine.
3, respect where you live. Start small by not dropping trash, littering in your own communities. I've lived in several predominantly white neighborhoods in my life. I rarely, if ever, witness people littering.
No kidding. You who grew up in mostly predominantly white neighborhoods, Don, you don't say.
He's suggesting that black people are predisposed to littering and white people are not.
So just sum up, pull up your pants. The prime of a women are in their prime, 20s and 30s. There's a good thing he's gay or he'd be another Cosby. You think Don Lemon got to where he is from not living around white people?
Because black people.
All right. So that's the update on Don Lemon. Welcome back to the CNN airwaves, Don Lemon, and good luck trying to...
Look, he made up for this by really sticking with Jussie Smollett way past when he should have known. Like,
did he defend
first heard it.
Did he defend Jussie Smollett?
Of course. He does every bad...
Yeah.
He should be on The View. He should be one of the ladies of The View.
Doing live stand-up comedy in Tempe, Palm Springs, Milwaukee, Nashville, Northampton, Massachusetts, Syracuse, Cohoes, New York, and Hartford, Connecticut. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets and become a premium member. Get access to all our content.